Town Bank Mortgage, NMLS number 512138, is an equal housing lender. This podcast is for informational purposes only. And now, the man born with a 5 o'clock shadow and with the NMLS number 2028-201. He is a gentleman. He is a scholar. He is
Tyler Cralle.
Welcome, everyone. Cape Fear Reports. I, of course, am Tyler Cralle, loan officer here at Town Bank Mortgage, Wilmington. And I want to start off by saying I never make it easy for my guests here on the show, even though you're supposed to as a host. And so joining me here on the show for the first time is Samantha Benford, a broker at Landmark Sotheby's International Realty. And Sam, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
So the reason I said don't make it easy is that this is the second time Sam has been in the studio today because she was here earlier and my equipment went down, and so now she is back. And so I appreciate you coming back here to join me here in the studio. Every time I have someone on, I don't make it easy. But thanks for being here, Sam. So Sam, I guess let's start from the beginning and talk about how you got kind of started in real estate.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think it all sort of stems from having a COVID wedding. Fuller and my husband started dating in college and got engaged, planned our wedding for April 25th, 2020, which was also my birthday. Obviously, April 2020 did not happen. We were living in Atlanta at the time and ended up getting legally married on that date, pushed our big wedding to Halloween of that year. And at the time, Fuller was working for a company based in Atlanta, a sales job. I was also working for a custom suiting company in Atlanta. And both of our jobs, around all of this time, went fully remote. Yeah. So once we kind of pushed the second wedding, it was before the second wave. So we were thankfully able to proceed with that as planned and had the wedding, honeymoon, got back, and we're talking about, what we wanted to do. And my goal was always to end up back in Wilmington because, dating Fuller throughout the years, we've come and visited his family. I'm like, this place is awesome. It
is.
Why the heck are we living in Atlanta? So, every, new wife's dream, had our wedding, got back from the honeymoon, and immediately moved in with my in-laws.
Well, clearly you liked it a lot because now you're working with one of your in-laws. So, I mean.
And so once we made that decision to make the move to Wilmington, again, his job was going to stay remote. And mine at the time, I wasn't, thinking about keeping that job. I was probably going to explore opportunities in Wilmington. And Fuller got a call one day from David, and David's like, look, do you think Sam would be interested in real estate? He's like, I have no idea. Why don't you call her? And he did, and we spoke, and, I went from selling thousands of dollar custom-made suits to selling houses. So it's, honestly pretty easy transition, a little bit different quirks, but you figure it out.
Probably a little, like I said, it's, you're still selling something custom that's kind of nice in some cases, I guess.
Yes.
And so obviously you didn't start out to do real estate. So
no, I did not, but a sales background definitely helped. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you're selling beautiful things. So it's kind of, it's just, one has a higher price tag than the other one.
One has a better commission too.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the suits have a good, commission along with it, but yes, much better in real estate. And so you are working with your father-in-law. So that has to be kind of interesting because, David was the first person I interviewed here on the podcast, and he's been in the business for a while. So you get a lot of, there's never been a question you've asked him that he probably couldn't answer because he's been around so long.
Sure. It's been great. He has a wealth of knowledge, but he's also maybe not the best at explaining things. So it's kind of like death by fire. Like, at the very beginning, he just kind of started including me on everything. Yeah. And I'm like, even just doing stuff with the attorney for closings, I had no idea. I'm like, what is deed prep? Like, what? I don't even know. Like, you do you get your real estate license, you do all these courses, and, you're kind of learning these definitions. But until you're applying all these things and how it actually works in a transaction is completely sort of different from what you learn going in.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been a big learning experience. And, of course, he's been there to walk me through everything and answer any questions. So I've been really lucky to have that.
I will say that it's sort of fun. That was sort of my experience. I was working with someone who'd been in the business for a long time when I first got started. And that is the only downside, is that because they've been doing it and they just, it seems like of course everyone knows how to do this, and
Sure.
everyone knows what this is, and
Sure.
you're like, no, I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with that. So, like I said, that is sort of kind of the downside. But like I said,
Yes.
I mean, the fact that he's seen so many ups and downs, and especially during COVID. So, I mean, you got started with the COVID market, and so did he kind of like prepare you for that and be like, all right, things are crazy right now, but this is not how it normally is?
Not really. And we also bought our first house as well. We ended up closing at the end of April 2021. So right around all of this time too. So that was a huge help, of course, going through it yourself and getting a better understanding of, the craziness. We were the first people that scheduled a showing for our house that we ended up getting. And there were, of course, 20 showings booked later in the day. I saw the house come on the market like Thursday night. I'm like, Friday morning, 8 a.m. As soon as we can do it, we're going to be there. And thankfully, it was an older couple, and they had signs everywhere. They had hand sanitizer everywhere. They had, please wear a mask, please use hand sanitizer, please take off your shoes. I think that they did not want all these people walking in their house.
Gotcha.
And so within 5 minutes, we, submitted an offer.
How much over ass did you have to go? You can go percentage-wise.
It was probably like 25,000 over us.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, so in this market, a lot.
Yes.
But in that market, nothing.
Not that bad,
crazy.
actually.
And I think we just got really lucky. And David and I called the listing agent, and David's like, look, what's it going to take for them to accept this offer? And the agent's like, well, I am obligated to show the rest of the showings. And David's like, you're obligated to present this offer to your seller.
Yeah.
And thankfully they accepted it.
Wow. That was not bad at that time. So what was sort of the craziest thing that you guys were seeing? Because, one of the interesting things also, I guess, about working with David is that he does also, Landmark Sotheby's himself works higher end real estate.
Sure.
And so in the normal market, as you pointed, you were seeing $25,000, $50,000 over ask. And so, and you're talking about homes that are like $300,000 to $500,000, you were seeing that. And so at that higher level, these $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million houses. I just have to imagine it was kind of the same, just with even crazier numbers.
Sure. There's one that comes to mind. We had a listing over at Station 1 on the beach.
Yeah.
Listed just over $1 million. And we received an offer, and they ended up winning out, but just put up $100,000 of due diligence, which in my brain,
Yes.
I've never seen that before. But when you're paying all cash for $1 million, what's $100,000 down for
That's true.
risk, I guess. And he's from the buyer's agent. They're like, look, they want it.
Yeah.
Take it.
Well, the cash thing makes me feel a little better because, you know that it's going to go through versus if you're getting a mortgage and all of a sudden you find out like the guy doesn't qualify and, you thought the person did. And, luckily I have not experienced that, but you feel so much pressure as a lender if they're putting in a huge due diligence check because you're like, oh my God, like I better make sure this math is correct because if this person ends up not being able to get this loan, they don't get that house. And so if they're doing cash, I guess you feel a little bit better about that. You're not as worried.
Sure. No, that makes sense. That does make a lot of sense.
But yeah, and so now the things have kind of calmed down. How have you sort of adjusted to this kind of newer market where homes are listing for a little, are staying on market for longer and there just aren't as many buyers out there? And so sort of how have you guys kind of adapted to that?
Sure. I think it's really interesting, and I wrote some notes down about this, but it really depends on your price range. This was sort of the first half of the year, but homes in the $450 to $499 range were up 30% year to date. So that's interesting, while homes $700 to $749 are down 80 to 100% in some months this year. So it really depends, and I think so much of that depends on what the home is priced at coming onto the market. Of course, you still see some homes that come on and they're just completely overpriced. And those are definitely the ones that are sitting there and taking, reduction after reduction. I think the best thing as a seller you can do today is to price your home maybe even on the slightly lower end. Yeah. And then you get a lot more activity and kind of see some traction, some multiple offers even if you play it that way.
Yeah, that is kind of an interesting strategy. Because I feel like, so And first of all, I do want everyone to know there is a storm happening in the background. So if you guys hear the thunder, it's not like someone moving upstairs. It is a storm outside. That is what is going on right outside these windows. But I guess are the clients now kind of realizing that the craziness of COVID's over, and so they're like, this is what we're going to list at, and then you're like, well, actually, there might be a better strategy to go a little lower. And so, I mean, I've heard that a lot of clients are kind of realizing, hey, they're realizing that, but I guess maybe you have some out there that still think it's 2022 or something.
I mean, I do think that they realize it. It definitely depends on your client, and you can push them. But, at the end of the day, I'm not the one making the number. They are the ones making that decision, and we can guide them the best that we can. And when it does get priced higher, it helps our end to be like, we've kind of talked through this initially. Let's plan on, if nothing's happened, we haven't received any offers in the first 30 days, 60 days, then we need to make a reduction.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, that you mentioned there being sort of a strategy to that, because, you see a price get listed too high, a house get listed too high, and then all of a sudden no one looks at it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, no one looked at it. And so then you lower the price. But now, because it went so long with no one, it becomes like there's like a stigma against it.
Yes.
And so I could see how, it seemed like now that is the big risk of listing it too high and getting no activity. And then even if you do lower the price versus the other route that you're talking about, we're going lower and then hopefully maybe multiple offer.
Sure.
And then someone does go higher than ask.
And of course, it depends on your house. It depends on your price point. It depends even on your neighborhood. We just recently bought a home off market, and that's a completely different way going about things too. And, I think there's definitely areas around Wilmington that people would love to, throw any number you want, and someone will probably come and buy it. So it's interesting. So much factors into.
Well, I mean, that is what's really fascinating to me about Wilmington is you have all these different areas.
Yes.
And, when I talked to David, he focused a lot on, Wrightsville Beach, obviously. And then, you have sort of the country club area that's also very kind of high price real estate. And so, being sort of newer in the business, do you deal more with like first time home buyers? Because that's sort of like me being sort of newer as a loan officer. I see, because someone who maybe has bought a couple houses probably already has a loan officer. So I am going to see more first-time home buyers. And so is that sort of where you are? Or, obviously David helping you out, he might have a lead or whatever. And so I guess, do you see more first-time home buyers, or are you also kind of working with a lot of David's clients as well?
It's a mix. And thankfully, the way David and I are kind of set up as a team, we're working with pretty much all of our clients together across the board, where he lets me take more of a lead, probably is more either a first-time home buyer or a second, third home. Yeah. That's maybe the one we just sort of dealt with working on, it's, parents purchasing a secondary property for a son at UNCW. Yes. So yes, but I've also had my own clients that, it was their first time home, and then now 4 or 5 years later, they're also selling that first time home. So I'm starting to see it cycle back, which is really nice too.
Yeah. That's one of the interesting things about this business is that, obviously if you do a good job, so you get them the first time home, and then a couple of years they want to move up. Sure. And I guess that's probably the thing that it's causing the biggest headache for everyone in this business is that we've sort of stopped, the cycle has stopped, because you have older people who are in homes that maybe are too big for them, but because they bought it, 15 years ago, or maybe it's paid off. It's like that for them to get a condo, it's almost like what they paid for their house or something. And then the people who bought their first time, they just can't buy their next home because of where, especially this area, where prices have gone.
Sure. And
so, that seems like that's the thing that everyone wants to kind of get back going again, is just sort of that cycle to get back on track.
Sure. Of course, even for us, it was really hard to give up a 3%.
Yeah, that's true.
And now we have essentially doubled that. But it was the right house in the neighborhood we wanted, and it just worked out. And so we were able to make that decision. I do think, ideally, interest rates get closer to that 5% range, then I think you see a lot more movement where people don't feel like it's such a big difference, and buying power too.
Well, so you bought your home in 21, and so So you probably actually had a pretty good amount of equity just in those couple of years. And so that because I think that's actually, you're like a poster child for what should be happening with a lot of people, because they do see that rate, which is, right now 6.5, 6.75, and they go, oh man, I got a 3% rate. But it's like, you can use that equity and buy that house so that your payment is going to be more, because you are buying a bigger house. You are buying the next step in the cycle. But it's nowhere near the sticker shock that a lot of people think it is, because they're forgetting how much they're going to be able to put down.
Yes. And that definitely implied we put 10% down on our first house, and we're able to put 33% down on the next house, and a more expensive house. So that definitely helped us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people are kind of forgetting. And I think people are kind of realizing that. And the fact that we are essentially kind of reaching a point in the housing market where things are slowing down, where we are lucky enough that, a lot of places in the South, I mean, Florida's getting just hammered with prices, but, we're still up kind of year over year, like a little bit, a couple percent. But people, I think, are kind of realizing that it's like, waiting a year, your home price isn't going to appreciate that much, and you're not going to get that much equity. And we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, your home price could actually fall in a year. I mean, it's not unprecedented. And so why not make that step now? Seems to be kind of the argument.
Sure. And for us, I mean, the timing both ways worked out, and we're really lucky for that. But I mean, absolutely, it's forever changing.
Well, I think that's, and I think that's also a good point too, is also, it's like, this house is perfect. And so don't let the house go away just because, you're going to pay a higher interest rate.
Yeah,
absolutely. Obviously, you need to be able to afford it.
Yes.
People buying the dream house. Because I remember one time seeing a story in 2005 where someone was arguing that they had gotten their dream house, and they got like some crazy teaser rate and all this stuff. And I remember watching it, and it was like some guy, and he was like 28, and I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to get your dream house at 28. I think that was kind of what the problem was. Is like, you're supposed to get that a little later. And so people got this sort of unrealistic expectation, and now we're kind of in the opposite scenario. I did want to ask you, being younger and kind of being more on social media, like, what role do you think that sort of plays? I mean, because you see a lot of people, loan officers, real estate agents, just killing it on social media, and everyone kind of trying to find a way to make it work there. And do you feel that there's like, is it smoke and mirrors? Is there really anything that comes from that? Or, I mean, do you guys think you utilize it?
I think you have to, well, as someone being in charge of my social media and David's social media.
I know David's not on social media.
I think you have to do it, and do it consistently, just to show that you are like a real person. You're doing real things, whether that's showing your clients or, in our case, homes that we've sold or, helped clients purchase. I think people like the visual to see, but whether that's truly generating new leads, I probably wouldn't say so. It's almost like the new form of like a Google review. Like, I think people look you up, and that's going to be one of the first things that's going to pop up. They want to make sure that you're legitimate. But, I don't think someone's going to be like, wow, that's the best TikTok video I've ever seen. I'm totally going to buy a house from her. Like,
yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. I mean, you always wonder that, because I see these like super polished kind of videos, and I'm like, man, that's a really good video. And I was like, that must have taken a lot. And then I just wonder, if anyone's actually getting any deals out of that. But to your point, you're right. Like, I mean, it shows that, like, oh, I like that person. Like, I could hang out with that person. Kind of like the politician thing, right? Where
a little bit. And I mean, I don't know if David mentioned this, but he has always said, people want to work with, a real estate agent, a mortgage lender who they know, like, and trust. And so, you just have to portray that, I think, on your socials. But at the end of the day, it's how you act in your real life, how you network around your friends, and, hang out with your friends. How you act in real life is much more important than, if you're really crazy and getting blackout at Jimmy's every night. Like, are you legit? I don't know. Like,
well, no, I mean, that is kind of funny, because you do see people, it's like, you want to be a real person, but then it's like, some people, it's like, you shouldn't be posting that. It's it's like, it's cool you do that, but I don't think that's going to, help your reputation at all. But yeah, I mean, I guess that is, you mentioned sort of the reviews, and I mean, it's crazy how everyone just goes nuts over like people, I mean, like how important it is, but at the same time, I think people kind of over exaggerate when you don't get that 5-star rating and someone gives you like 4. And I'll say, before I even got in the business, I was always very hesitant of ever giving out 5 stars, but I didn't realize it's pretty common. Like, it's like if you don't give someone 5, they think that you did like the worst job ever. And it's like, I always thought like 5 was just this like magical number that you never gave out. And it's funny how if someone gets a 4, like, people in my business, I know real estate agents, it can like ruin their day. Sure. And I don't know if the consumer realizes that they think like, oh, 4 is a good rating. And it's like, no, you'll ruin someone's day if you give them a 4. You got to give them a 5. It'll mess them up.
I mean, it does seem that way. But, again, I think it's anything online, you just have to take with a grain of salt, honestly.
No, that's true. No, that's very true. I mean, like I said, I always thought like the highest rating was one that you just didn't really go to, like, because it made it more realistic.
Sure. Because
no one's ever perfect. You never have a perfect deal.
You're a hard teacher.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I know, exactly. But I mean, and it's interesting too, because you have these different social media platforms and you're targeting different clients.
Sure.
Where, TikTok is like Generation Z, I guess. Like Instagram to me is like millennials. And then Facebook is Gen X and boomers, I guess, for the most part. Yeah. And so, I mean, way more boomers, I will say. And it's kind of interesting how you kind of use those platforms, because, TikTok to me seems like very informal.
Yes.
Where Instagram's very polished.
Sure.
And then Facebook is almost, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of like in between.
Sure.
And so you're targeting kind of different clients, I guess, by going on these different platforms.
Yes. I would, if I had the time to make a separate strategy for each
thing,
that would be great. But I mean, for the most part, it's pretty much how can we, and again, at the end of the day, we're paying all this money for the photography that we do, for videos that we do, even walking through an open house or having a broker open, kind of showing the things that you're doing on your day-to-day basis. How can we use that 10 different which ways, at least from our point of view?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's the multiple posting, I think, is definitely a lot of value. I think another thing that people are always kind of interested in is sort of like on a daily basis, like what, especially real estate. Because obviously you being a mom and a wife. And so, people always look at real estate agents and like, oh my God, you guys have all this free time. Like, all this free. And it's true. Like some days there probably is nothing really going on. And then some days it's like you're slammed. And I mean, when you talk to most people, I mean, most people just think that it's just like the coolest thing ever because you have all this free time, but you are sort of at the whim of your clients.
Yes.
Or if they want to see a bunch of houses, like that's what you're doing.
And it's usually on a weekend.
Yeah.
So, I think the freedom, yes, is great in a lot of ways, but you also sort of are on call in a lot of ways too. Yeah. So, are you able to show something within the next hour? Are you able to kind of shift your schedule around? So that's working on a team definitely helps.
That's
at least
true.
one of the two of us. Okay, you're on vacation. All right, I'm available this weekend. That sort of thing. So that's been a huge help.
Unless you do a family vacation.
Yes. Then we got to have someone else on.
No, I mean that definitely. I mean that because it's funny because see in the mortgage side there's like not a lot of teams.
Sure.
I mean sometimes you see them. Usually you have like a really high producing loan officer, and then he has some people that work for him that he kind of feeds, and they work out some kind of system. But the vast majority there's not teams. Real estate, though, it does seem like is much more team oriented. And it's very rarely do you see kind of really top producing agents that are kind of on their own. It's usually they're working with other people. And I think it's probably to your point, right? Where, I mean, that helps you almost be in two places at once.
Sure. I think, a lot of different firms function differently with that, where I think it's probably, I don't want to say push, but maybe more so encouraged in other firms to have a bigger team versus our firm. Really, David and I are one of the only ones. There's a few other, sort of family-related teams, but it's not a big chunk of our firm, I would say. But, obviously it's different ways to run your business. There's pros and cons to all of it. Yeah, no, I mean,
and you guys are kind of more, I mean, how many agents would you say are out of your office in Wilmington?
In Wilmington, I would probably say like 20 to 25.
Yeah, I mean, so are you guys one? I mean, because you guys do a ton of business, but there's not a ton of agents. So are you guys more kind of like just how many agents you have on the smaller side? Because like you look at some of these firms and they have just like hundreds of agents.
Sure.
But they're also, some of them are not doing that many deals versus,
Sure.
you guys doing more deals, but not as big.
I think for our firm specifically, we really focus on, that higher end market, that luxury market. So, just from a sales perspective, if you're selling $3 million plus homes, say you're getting $5 million in sales versus selling, $400,000 smaller deals. So, and that's where when you're doing a lot more deals, and maybe they are on the smaller side, you need a lot more people to help work that.
That's
too.
True.
Versus obviously the higher number, the less deals you can do, right? So I think Sotheby's goal is always to how do you increase your productivity to have, the same sales number, but I don't want to say work less, but maybe less deals that go into that and have a more, quality of life to that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what David said too. I mean, it's sort of about, having that balance, but then also, it also means you can work more on that one deal.
Sure.
And so you can see the value. And especially, and once again, I'm looking at it from the mortgage side. A lot of times when you have a high net worth client who's buying a bigger house, it is going to require more work because they might have all these different properties. They might have, a bunch of LLCs and you're having to document all that stuff. And so it's like, it is going to take you longer versus the W-2 employee with pay stubs. And it's like, that's super easy. And so I feel like, and David actually, because I was actually surprised because David had mentioned that sometimes, I was thinking, all these high priced properties must just be very complicated. And he was like, sometimes, but sometimes they're not. and it's kind of surprising. I was kind of surprised because I just assumed that at that dollar amount, it'd be like, oh man, there must be all this stuff that you have to do. And it must be way different than like a normal sale. And he was, no, not really.
It just depends. I mean, it depends on your clients. It could be the, $200,000 house or the $2 million house. It depends on your clients. So.
No, that's true. That's very true. I just didn't know if there was like more that was involved, like if there were more things needed to be done, like more inspections or other things, because there might be more amenities with the house, and that, like I said, I just didn't know, and I was kind of surprised that it's kind of like another transaction, just a bigger transaction.
It is, and for some of those higher price, I think a lot of those clients are looking for more services across the board. If someone's buying a secondary home on Wrightsville Beach or on Figure 8 Island, they're probably not staying there full time or coming even often enough. They're looking for the additional services of, who's someone who can come into the house and, just check on it or do landscaping or, XYZ number of things that maybe a typical primary home buyer wouldn't be interested in.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I was learning more about our construction product here at town. And one of the things that they had mentioned was, someone buying a second home, especially in this area, who isn't here. And we had the software where you're allowed to utilize, and you can kind of show the updates as the project's going on and, send them pictures so they can see kind of what's happening because they're not here. And I was like, I kind of didn't realize that, especially like if you're building a property and you're somewhere else, how are you monitoring it? And I was like, oh, okay. And so that is an interesting thing about the second home, because you could be dealing with a client that the whole time you're never like actually seeing them. It's like completely over the phone. You don't see them until like the closing day.
Sure. And sometimes not even that if you can't cash there. And sure. I just think probably from our perspective, it's just how can you be a resource for them, across the board. We're working with some clients right now that are under contract on a new construction townhome, and we're over there about every week just trying to update them. And of course the builder said it's ready this month and it gets pushed into next month, and so from their perspective they're like, what's going on? And so all we can do is just keep them informed and go take pictures and be in contact with the listing agent and just try to be as involved as possible.
Yeah, I mean, so how often do you guys deal with kind of new construction kind of at that price point? Because the one thing that always sort of amazes me is when I see these, 5 million plus homes that are like spec homes. And I'm like, wow, they built like, and I always think that, if I was buying a $5 million house, I'd be like, I want to build it my way. And so, I mean, so do you, at that higher price point, do you see a lot of people that maybe want to go the new construction route and they find that perfect home, or are people usually at that price point okay with buying, an existing home?
I think if it's an existing home that is turnkey and, completely updated, remodeled, ready to go, luxury buyers are all over that.
Yeah.
If it's now in Wrightsville Beach, for example, say it's a $2 million sort of fixer-upper. I mean, funny. I don't think a lot of people, I don't think it attracts the same clientele that, wants to deal with the construction. Because even now, I mean, construction prices are really high too. So if it's something that's turnkey, that from a luxury price point, that seems to go a lot quicker.
I'm glad you brought that up because when I had Heather on, she was talking about that's one of the things that's changed in the market is that, people who are selling their homes, they kind of got to do some stuff to them.
Sure.
To get the eyes.
Sure.
We were talking about prices earlier, but, one of the other things that can cause people not to look at the houses, they start going through the pictures and they're like, ugh, like that's old kitchen, old that, I'm going to have to change that, I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, is that kind of one of the things that that would obviously be more kind of the lower price point where that would be an issue versus, I guess, the higher price point, because usually those are, or no.
Not necessarily.
Really?
I would say it applies to both.
Okay.
And yeah, I do think people on any price point are looking at, okay, what do we have to fix here? And again, I think it just goes back to that pricing conversation of if you're going to price it on the high end of this, it better be, pretty fully updated.
Yeah.
Where if it's not, then you almost have to factor in what updates would maybe be someone looking at it would think would need to be done. And I know when it's your house, you're like, well, it's great.
Yeah.
But, someone looking at the pictures online, to your point, would be like, okay, we need to update this kitchen, this bathroom. That's, cha-ching.
Yeah.
How do you factor that into your price?
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, do you feel like that's how a lot of people, because I remember when I was looking to buy back in like 2017, I was looking at Zillow, and then my realtor at the time, Scott Haynes, shout out. He's like, you got to use realtor.com. That's the better one. So I started going to that one. But do you feel like that's sort of, is everyone on these sites now where that's how they're finding out? Or do you still have people that are like, find me this house?
I would say 90% of people are looking on Zillow.
Okay.
And even Zillow, I have some clients of mine that just went under contract yesterday, found the house on Zillow, but it was listed with a Raleigh agent. So it was in the Raleigh MLS. So I don't know if you know this, but all of the MLSs are pretty much separate regional entities. Yeah. So I can't see what's on sale in Raleigh, or I can't see what's on sale in the mountains. They're all separate. So you have to be a member to see them.
Okay.
And then that basically every MLS has, it's up to the MLS to decide to share that information, the listings, to third parties. So your Zillows, your Realtor.coms, your Homes.com. So they saw this house on there that I couldn't look at from our MLS. So I'm looking on Zillow.
Yeah.
So it's, again, I think we kind of talked about this earlier, the, realtor and what does that mean?
Yeah.
And the regional MLS, like how much of that is making sense at this point when you have these tech companies that, consumers are using and we're having to use. Unless you're an agent, you're not really looking in the MLS. So I don't know what the answer to that is on how to move forward, but
yeah, no, well, you're hearing about all these. I'm not going to get into it because it's way too into the weeds, but you're hearing about all these like fights about these companies and the MLS, and they're being forced to sign up, and now they're, it's kind of difficult for me to follow it, and so I'm like, the average person probably has no idea what's going on. But yeah, it is kind of funny how all of a sudden with these sites popping up and becoming so popular that all of a sudden it is becoming sort of this gateway to entry where it's like you have to be on. I even see, because it's like the worst thing you see when you're looking for a house and you see the listing is like some listing service and it's like for sale by owner or whatever.
Sure.
And you're just like, oh no, like that's going to be a complicated transaction.
Yes.
But people have to do that. So they have to go to those listing services because you cannot sell your house and not be on those websites.
No, absolutely. It's all about, being on Google, being able to search the property. And, our perspective is, how do we best use that to market a listing? How do we make sure that, when we do list a property, that it's available on every single website, and we're pushing it to be that's how people find you.
Yeah.
So how do you make that work through your socials, through Google, through all of these different platforms?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty amazing, what you got to do now to catch people's eyes. Sure. And it is very fascinating because I look through Zillow every day, and like it is funny the properties that some will catch me. Like if they have what's the one that everyone always kind of makes fun of people. It's like the sunset photo with the house where they like put the artificial sunset in.
Oh, yes,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And the windows are all reflective. And those I know a lot of realtors kind of make fun of other realtors for using it, but that always makes me stop and click on it.
It does catch your eye.
I'm like, that's why they're doing it. It totally works. And I'm like, I get why they do that. Because like it does make the house with that kind of golden hour pop.
It does.
And so it's like, it's funny things like that you have to do that you just weren't doing, they weren't doing, 10, 20 years ago. One thing I did want to ask, what do you see happening kind of with the market? Because it does we did have a decent drop in rates recently, which I think has kind of helped people maybe decide they're going to get back in. But, you look at some of this data and you're seeing kind of a slowdown, it looks like, which I get. It's sort of the end. Here, there is always kind of that because, August is just such an awful month with like storms every day and it's so hot. And so it does kind of seem like there's a slowdown anyway.
Okay.
But, I mean, what do you kind of see kind of happening over the next couple of years with the market?
I mean, I don't think that Wilmington's going to stop growing anytime soon. So with that, I think we're at a huge advantage with our location.
Yeah.
And, how do you best, navigate, whether that's a listing, whether that's with clients, are you marketing yourself to sort of your Northeast buyer that we know is moving down? Are you marketing yourself to, other areas? Or, how do you promote sort of the lifestyle of Wilmington? I think that, especially on social media, is what catches people's eyes of being like, oh, that looks like a really cool place to live, having The Summer I Turned Pretty being filmed here and all these other Netflix shows. And you're like, oh, I'm on Cousins Beach and it's Wrightsville Beach. I think that those are the sort of things that you can kind of help position yourself of just being your local expert in the area.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy because I saw another show on, I think it was Netflix. It's like about a high school. It's actually based in Wilmington. It's like a fake school. I think it's Wilmington High School, but it's about a band it's like a high school band after they graduate and they're trying to like make it.
Oh, is it the Waterfront or is that?
No. The Waterfront is the Waterfront's the one that came out on Netflix. This one hasn't come out yet. I think it's coming out like I just saw the preview for it.
Okay.
But it's about Wilmington. It was filmed in Wilmington. And I'm like, man, there's like 3 major shows that are in Wilmington.
Sure.
And I've always told people, like I've never been a huge fan of the film grants on sort of principle, but I've always said if we're going to have them, the shows are where that pay dividends because it's like, I mean, they still do a One Tree Hill kind of fan thing every year here, like a convention kind of thing. Dawson's Creek, I mean, people still mention it.
Yes.
And that was 30 years ago. And then these shows like The Summer I Turned Pretty and now you got On the Waterfront, On the Waterfront's a movie. But it's like these shows, I mean, people, not like Wilmington needed it.
Sure.
But it's like people are like, I'm going to move there.
Yes, absolutely.
And what's funny is that if Dawson's Creek was supposed to take place in New England, which is filmed here, and then there's a movie called Summer Catch, with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jessica Biel, and it's a pretty good movie. It's a stupid like rom-com like 2000s movie, but that was filmed here, and that was also supposed to take place in New England.
Okay.
And so for a while we became like the New England stand-in, like when you couldn't film up there. But now it seems like it's like we're a beach town, and all these shows that are coming out are about us being a beach town.
Yeah.
And so it is pretty amazing. I mean, do people that are moving here, do they like reference the shows ever when they're talking to you? I guess these are pretty new, so maybe they might mention those.
Yeah, maybe some of the younger clients,
okay.
Yes, but some of the older clients we work with, no.
They're like, Waterfront's great, that's why I'm moving here.
Yeah. But your younger people, they're like, oh, no way, this is, my little sister has a friend that goes to the One Tree Hill thing every year.
Really?
And I'm like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Like, no offense if you do that, but I'm like, you've never been to Wilmington. You come here just for the One Tree Hill.
Really?
I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, it's big. I mean, it's so big. And I'm actually surprised they haven't tried to do something with Dawson's Creek too. And like Adam, but yeah, I mean the One Tree Hill one is just, it's big. I mean, I see everyone posting and all these people show up. And I mean, so did she watch the show or did she watch it like, cause I see all these like young people who are like all about One Tree Hill. And I'm like, you were like 5 years old when the show came out.
Yes, this is exactly.
So she watched it. So she caught the next generation.
Yes,
okay.
She's like mid to late 20-year-old.
Okay. So she didn't watch it when it was on CW or what? I think it was on CW, right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Or was it WB still then? I don't even know.
I think it was CW because every time they do March Madness and like they show games on the CW, Fuller's like the One Tree Hill game.
Okay. Yeah, it is pretty amazing because then it's funny because then you had like Iron Man 3 that was filmed here, and no one knows that.
No.
Like no one's like, oh, this is where Iron Man 3 was, even though it was the biggest movie we've ever done here. It has no lasting power versus like the One Tree Hill and Dawson's Creek stuff that's still going strong. So yeah, I mean it like I think you're right to the point where these shows, as they get more popular and people are like, looks like a great place because they really do make Wilmington look pretty awesome. Oh yeah, on those shows.
Oh yeah. Revenge is another one too.
I forgot about that one. Yeah,
where it's like the Hamptons, but it was in landfall. Yeah, but it looks, you wouldn't know otherwise unless
That was a network TV show, right? That was on ABC.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably like the last. That's probably the last network show because I don't even know. I couldn't name a network show, but yeah, I mean, I think as those shows kind of spread throughout, I mean, like I said, we don't really need it, but it's definitely gonna help keep us in the conversation.
Absolutely. And, I think you can look at Charleston and see the crazy growth they've had since probably 2020. I mean, leading up to that, yes, but COVID exploded that market. I just think for Wilmington, it's a matter of time until it sort of becomes that as well.
Oh, people are crying as you're saying.
I know. I mean, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, especially because I still think you have a lot of untapped potential downtown.
Yes, absolutely.
That can really kind of become that like Charleston vibe.
Yes, as someone who lived downtown for 4 years. Yes.
That's right. That's right. I forgot.
Love downtown.
Phenomenal.
And absolutely. I think, Olivero was the closest restaurant to our old house. So we're like, this is amazing. We loved it.
So you're pretty close. So you're close to Castle then.
Yes.
Yeah, because Castle, I mean, that's amazing is what's happened with Castle, too.
Oh, yeah. To hear Fuller talk about when he grew up here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, we didn't go on Castle Street.
And now you have, I mean, these, especially that one side of Castle where you have just sort of a lot of these great new shops that are popping up. And I mean, so, I mean, that must have been very kind of fun to, I mean, especially, so you guys started, so you were in Atlanta.
Yes.
And then came up here. So, I mean, that seems like, I would think, I mean, I guess you were like in a suburb, right? You weren't downtown Atlanta?
We were in Brookhaven, which is right next to Buckhead. So, sort of some of that walkability. Okay. And looking in downtown Wilmington, which I always love the old houses too.
Yes.
Love the beautiful historic home look. And I'm like, I kind of want to live somewhere we can walk to things. So we could walk to Luna Cafe. We could walk to Olivero. We could go to the bars pre-baby, and
you can go after the baby. You just got to get a babysitter.
The hangovers, I don't know, are worth it.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. And plus, some of these bars, there's babies all over the place. I'm like, what is going on here? Like breweries is the funniest thing to me. Because I'm like,
I am one of those people, but yes.
Well, no, I'm not criticizing it. It's just funny. Like I was like, all of a sudden, like I go to a brewery. I'm like, is there a daycare here? Like, what is going on? There's like all these kids running around this brewery.
I know. Well, it's hard to find a place as a parent that you can get a beer and bring your 2-year-old with you.
No, I agree.
And unfortunately, breweries have sort of become that.
I know. I mean, they tapped a market that most people probably didn't associate. Like, we need a place for parents to go drink. And it's like no one has that place. Yes.
During the day.
Yes, during the day. Yeah. You don't want to go to there at night.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. Well, I think we've covered everything.
Awesome.
I do appreciate you joining us here on the program and being patient as I got all my technology figured out. Every time I do a show, I learn there's one thing I have to make sure I fail safe next time. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.